You're listening to I've Been Cooking, where chefs and food lovers take apart delicious dishes and piece by piece tell the story of how they're made. I'm Andrea, and I hope you enjoyed today's show.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Deep Dive. I'm Mark.
And I'm Andrea.
And today we're diving deep into a recipe that really caught our eye. It's maple cream poutine.
It's a unique twist on a Canadian classic.
And we've got some fascinating sources about it, so we're ready to share the most intriguing bits with all of you. And speaking of intriguing bits, for even more culinary adventures, be sure to check out our app.
Yes.
It's called I've Been Cooking. It's available on both the Apple App Store and Google Play.
You can also find us on Pinterest,
Instagram,
and Facebook.
at I'vebeen.cooking. So now back to our poutine.
All right, let's do it.
So, poutine, fries, cheese curds, and gravy, it's got its roots in Quebec, right?
Right.
But this maple cream version seems like a pretty big departure.
Yeah.
What are your initial thoughts?
It definitely piqued my curiosity. Poutine has that savory, comforting quality.
Yeah.
So adding maple syrup and cream is a bold move. I'm really interested to see how the recipe balances those sweet and savory elements.
Yeah, that was my first reaction, too. It was like, whoa, this could be amazing.
Yeah.
Or a total clash of flavors.
Yeah.
But let's get into the details. What does the recipe actually say about making this maple cream poutine?
Well, it starts with the classic base.
Okay.
Fries, cheese curds, and gravy. But then things get interesting. The recipe suggests using real maple syrup.
Oh.
Which I think is crucial here. Artificial syrups just wouldn't have that same depth of flavor to complement the savory components.
Okay, that makes sense. Real maple syrup has a much more complex flavor profile.
Absolutely.
So how do they incorporate it? Is it just drizzled on top?
Not quite.
Okay.
They create a maple cream sauce by simmering heavy cream and maple syrup until it thickens slightly.
Okay.
That way the sweetness is integrated into the sauce rather than just being an afterthought.
Ah, so it's more about creating a cohesive flavor experience rather than just a sweet topping. That's clever.
Yeah.
And what about the other elements? Any surprises there?
The recipe emphasizes the importance of hot gravy. And not just for flavor, but for texture. It needs to be hot enough to melt the cheese curds, creating that gooey, stringy goodness that's essential to a good poutine.
Right, that melting cheese is key.
Oh, for sure.
Now, they mentioned you can bake fry or air fry the fry.
Yeah.
Do they specify which method is best for this particular dish?
They don't explicitly say one is better, but they do stress the importance of crispy fries.
Okay.
That textural contrast is so important in poutine. You've got the soft cheese curds, the rich sauce, and then that satisfying crunch from the fries.
Makes sense. It's all about that interplay of textures.
Exactly.
So we've got crispy fries, melty cheese curds, a savory gravy base,
Yes.
and a sweet and creamy maple sauce. It's like a symphony of flavors and textures all in one dish.
Absolutely.
This is making me seriously hungry.
Me too.
But beyond just the deliciousness, I'm curious about what inspired this unique take on poutine. What can you tell us about that?
Well, traditional poutine has a fascinating history. While its exact origins are debated, it's widely believed to have emerged in rural Quebec sometime in the 1950s.
Okay.
And for decades, it remained a regional dish, largely unknown outside of Quebec.
So how did it become such a national icon then?
That's where things get interesting. In the 1980s and 90s, poutine started to spread beyond Quebec's borders, appearing in restaurants and food trucks across Canada.
Wow.
It began to be embraced by different cultures and communities, each adding their own twists and interpretations.
So it wasn't just a culinary phenomenon, but a cultural one as well. It's fascinating how food can reflect those kinds of shifts.
Absolutely. And this maple cream poutine is a perfect example of that evolution. It takes a traditional dish and reimagines it with a distinctly Canadian ingredient, maple syrup.
Okay, that makes a little sense. So this recipe isn't just about creating a delicious dish, it's also about exploring how a classic can be adapted and reinterpreted using local ingredients and flavors.
Precisely, and that's what makes it so intriguing. It's a testament to the creativity and innovation that's happening within Canadian cuisine while still paying homage to its roots.
That's a great point. And it makes me wonder what other unique variations are out there.
Oh, so many.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's go back to the maple cream poutine. What are some of the key takeaways from this recipe so far? What do you think is most important for our listeners to understand?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is the emphasis on balance.
Okay.
This recipe isn't just about adding sweetness to poutine. It's about creating a harmonious blend of sweet, savory, creamy, and crunchy elements.
Right.
It's about understanding how those different flavors and textures interact with each other.
That's a great point. It's not just about throwing ingredients together, it's about thoughtful composition.
Exactly.
And speaking of ingredients, you mentioned the importance of real maple syrup. Why is that such a crucial element here?
It's all about the depth of flavor. Real maple syrup has those rich, complex notes that complement the savory elements of the poutine. It adds a layer of complexity that artificial syrups simply can't replicate.
That makes sense. It's like the difference between using fresh herbs versus dried ones.
Yeah.
You get a much more nuanced flavor profile with the real deal.
Exactly. And I think that attention to detail is what elevates this recipe beyond just a simple poutine variation.
Yeah.
It shows a real appreciation for the quality of ingredients and how they contribute to the overall experience.
You know, you're making me realize that this maple cream poutine is more than just a recipe. It's a reflection of how Canadian cuisine is evolving and embracing new flavors while still staying true to its roots. It's a fascinating blend of tradition and innovation.
I couldn't agree more. And I think that's what makes this deep dive so interesting.
Yeah.
It's not just about learning how to make a dish, it's about understanding the cultural and culinary context that surrounds it.
Absolutely. And speaking of context, I'm curious to learn more about how poutine has evolved beyond its humble beginnings in Quebec.
Well, that's where things get really interesting. Poutine has become a blank canvas for culinary creativity, with chefs and home cooks alike experimenting with different ingredients and flavor combinations.
So it's no longer just a regional dish, but a national, even international phenomenon. That's quite a journey for a dish that started with just fries, cheese curds, and gravy.
Exactly. And that's what we'll be exploring next. Get ready for a delicious journey through the world of poutine variations.
I can't wait.
All right.
Let's do it.
So, Mark, are you ready to explore some of those poutine variations?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, because we're about to go on a culinary adventure across Canada and beyond.
I'm excited.
All right, so one trend I've noticed is the incorporation of regional specialties.
Okay.
For example, in the Maritimes, you might find poutine topped with lobster and a creamy seafood sauce.
Lobster poutine.
Yes.
Wow, that sounds amazing.
It's a delicious fusion of coastal flavors and classic comfort food.
It sounds incredible.
Yeah.
It's amazing how something so simple can be elevated with such luxurious ingredients.
Right. And it's not just about fancy ingredients. Sometimes the most unexpected combinations are the most delicious.
Okay.
I once had a poutine in Vancouver that was topped with pulled pork barbecue sauce and crispy onion rings.
Whoa, okay. That sounds like the ultimate comfort food mashup.
It is.
It's like a barbecue feast on top of a pile of fries. I can see why poutine has become such a popular street food item.
Absolutely. It's portable, customizable, and utterly satisfying. But the creativity doesn't stop there.
Oh, really?
Some chefs are even using poutine as a base for global flavors. I've seen poutine inspired by Mexican cuisine with toppings like chorizo, black beans, salsa, and guacamole.
Wow, that's a bold fusion. It really shows how poutine has transcended its origins to become a truly global dish.
It really has.
And it makes me wonder, what drives this kind of culinary experimentation? Why is poutine so ripe for reinvention?
I think it comes down to a few factors.
Right.
First, poutine has that perfect balance of flavors and textures.
Mhm.
The salty fries, the creamy cheese, curds, the rich gravy.
Right.
It's a combination that appeals to our primal cravings.
I agree. It's like a culinary trifecta of deliciousness.
Yeah.
But what about the cultural aspect?
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier how poutine has become a symbol of Canadian identity.
Exactly. And I think that sense of national pride plays a role in its evolution.
Okay.
Chefs and home cooks alike are taking this iconic dish and putting their own spin on it, using local ingredients, regional flavors, and personal inspirations.
So it's a way of celebrating Canadian cuisine while also pushing the boundaries of what it can be. It's like a culinary conversation between tradition and innovation.
That's a great way to put it. And that conversation is happening all across Canada in restaurants, food trucks, and home kitchens. It's a testament to the creativity and diversity of Canadian food culture.
You know, Andre, you've really opened my eyes to the world of poutine.
Huh.
It's gone from a simple dish I knew vaguely about to this fascinating culinary and cultural phenomenon.
I'm glad to hear that, Mark. It's been a pleasure sharing my poutine knowledge with you.
Oh, of course.
And I hope our listeners are feeling inspired to explore the world of poutine beyond the classic recipe.
Absolutely. Who knows? Maybe we'll even inspire some of our listeners to create their own unique poutine variations.
That would be amazing.
But before we get too carried away with future poutine dreams, let's bring it back to the recipe we started with, the maple cream poutine.
Sounds good to me. It's time to delve back into those sweet and savory details.
Okay, so we've talked about the importance of using real maple syrup and getting those fries nice and crispy.
Yes.
What other tips or insights does the recipe offer?
One detail that stood out to me was the emphasis on using high-quality cheese curds.
Oh,
The recipe specifically mentions that they should be fresh and squeaky.
yes. Those squeaky cheese curds are essential to the poutine experience.
Oh, yeah.
But why is freshness so important here?
Well, fresh cheese curds have a unique texture and flavor that's simply unmatched. They're soft, springy, and have a slightly tangy flavor that balances the richness of the gravy and the sweetness of the maple cream sauce.
So it's not just about the squeak, it's about the overall sensory experience.
Exactly.
And I imagine that flavor changes as the cheese curds age.
It does. As cheese curds age, they lose moisture and become firmer.
Yep.
That squeaky texture diminishes and the flavor becomes more intense, sometimes even a bit sharp.
Interesting. So using fresh cheese curds ensures that you get that perfect balance of flavors and textures. It's all about those little details that elevate the dish.
Precisely. And it speaks to the importance of using quality ingredients in general.
Yeah.
When you start with good ingredients, the end result is always going to be better.
You know, you're making me think about how this recipe is a great example of that principle.
Yeah.
The emphasis on real maple syrup, fresh cheese curds, and properly cooked fries shows a real dedication to creating a truly delicious and authentic poutine experience.
I couldn't agree more. And it's a reminder that even simple dishes can be extraordinary when you pay attention to the details and use quality ingredients.
Speaking of details, is there anything else in the recipe that we haven't covered yet? Any hidden gems or tips that our listeners should know about?
Well, one thing that I found interesting was the suggestion to let the maple cream sauce cool slightly before pouring it over the poutine.
Oh.
This prevents the hot sauce from completely melting the cheese curds, ensuring that you get that perfect balance of melted and unmelted cheese.
That's a great tip. It's all about maintaining those distinct textures.
Exactly.
So it's not just about the ingredients themselves, but also about the techniques used to bring them together.
Exactly. It's about understanding the science behind cooking and how those small adjustments can make a big difference in the final product.
You know, Andrea, you've really highlighted the importance of technique and precision in this recipe. It's not just about following steps, it's about understanding why those steps are important and how they contribute to the overall flavor and texture of the dish.
Absolutely. And that's what makes cooking so rewarding. It's a combination of creativity, science, and a bit of artistry.
Well said. It's about taking simple ingredients and transforming them into something truly special. And in the case of this maple cream poutine, it's about taking a classic dish and giving it a delicious Canadian twist.
And that twist, my friend, is what makes this recipe so intriguing. It's a reminder that culinary traditions are constantly evolving, and there's always something new to discover in the world of food.
You know, you've sparked my curiosity about other Canadian ingredients that could be incorporated into poutine. I'm now envisioning a poutine topped with wild blueberries and a drizzle of Saskatoon berry syrup.
Now that's an idea worth exploring, and it speaks to the endless possibilities of poutine as a culinary canvas. Wild blueberries and Saskatoon berry syrup. That sounds incredible. It seems like our deep dive into maple cream poutine has opened up a whole world of possibilities.
It really has, and it's not just about the ingredients themselves. We've talked about how poutine has evolved in terms of flavor profiles.
Yeah.
But what about its presentation? Has that changed as well?
Oh, absolutely. While the classic heaping pile on a plate is still common, you now see poutine served in bowl scones, even in bread bowls like a soup.
Poutine in a bread bowl. That's taking comfort food to a whole new level.
Right. And it's not just about being trendy. These different serving styles often reflect the portability and shareability of poutine. For example, poutine cones are perfect for enjoying on the go at festivals or markets.
Right, makes sense. It's about adapting the dish to different contexts and occasions. Speaking of occasions, I've noticed that poutine has moved beyond casual settings. Some high-end restaurants are now featuring gourmet poutines on their menus.
That's right. Chefs are experimenting with premium ingredients and sophisticated techniques to elevate poutine to a fine dining experience. I've seen poutine with foie gras, truffle oil, and even braised short ribs.
Wow, that's a far cry from the humble origins of the dish. It's amazing to see how versatile poutine can be.
It really is, and I think that versatility is part of what makes it so enduring. It can be a simple, satisfying snack or a sophisticated culinary creation. It can be enjoyed in a casual setting or a fine dining restaurant.
It's almost like poutine has become a culinary chameleon, adapting to different tastes, trends, and occasions.
I love that analogy, and I think it speaks to the adaptability and enduring appeal of poutine. It's a dish that's constantly evolving, yet it always stays true to its essence, deliciousness and comfort.
You know, Andrea, this entire deep dive has been a revelation. I had no idea how deep the world of poutine truly went.
It's been a pleasure exploring it with you, Mark. And I hope our listeners have gained a newfound appreciation for this Canadian classic and its endless possibilities.
Absolutely, we've covered everything from the history and cultural significance of poutine to its evolution in flavor profiles, presentation, and even its culinary status.
And who knows, maybe we've even inspired some of our listeners to create their own unique poutine masterpieces.
I hope so, because that's what the deep dive is all about. Sparking curiosity, igniting a passion for learning, and encouraging you to explore the world with a fresh perspective.
Well said, Mark. And on that note, I think it's time for us to wrap up this delicious deep dive into the world of maple cream poutine.
But before we go, we want to encourage everyone to check out our website, I'vebeen.cooking, for more culinary adventures. You'll find a treasure trove of recipes, cooking tips, and inspiration to fuel your kitchen creativity.
And don't forget to follow us on social media at I'vebeen.cooking for even more delicious discoveries. We love hearing from our listeners and seeing what you're cooking up.
So until next time, happy cooking and keep diving deep.
Hi, it's Jamie, and if you enjoyed today's episode of I've Been Cooking, we'd love for you to share it. Leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a new recipe. Do you know someone who loves cooking as much as you do? Send this episode their way. And hey, let's stay connected. You can find us on Pinterest, Instagram, and Facebook at I've Been Cooking. Tag us to show off your creations and join a community of food lovers worldwide. And if you want to chat with us directly, we're always hanging out on Discord. You'll find the link to join in the footer of our website at I'vebeen.cooking. Until next time.